So today it's a little rainy outside, so all that I'm going to do is I got my drill and I'm going to take out all these screws that didn't come out, and then I got a chisel, and since we're not replacing these rim joists, we're just going to paint over them. Since it's wet, I'm going to take a chisel, and especially around all these spindles where these spindles were, where it's really peeling, I'm just going to take my chisel and kind of scrape the paint away. Okay, so this is what I got. Looks a lot better. Well, worse, but it's gotta look worse first in order for it to look better later, right? We're just gonna keep the paint with how it was. So all of the deck boards and the tops of the railings will be stained after it weathers for a while, and everything else will be painted. So the porch spindles, this board, everything that was white, and we're gonna repaint that. Should probably chisel that too, this post, but that won't be for a little bit. It's wet out, like I said, so I'm not gonna work on the wood today. Probably tomorrow or one day after school this week. But it's getting there. Just gotta finish with this last pieces of railing, and this side will be easier because I can see where the spindles were, so I don't gotta bother marking them out, and there's already screw holes if I so desire to use those. So I think it'll go by a lot quicker. I am really excited to see this whole thing done, though. It'll be really cool, and I'll be really proud of myself to be able to say that I rebuilt our front porch and it looks great. the end of March now, and I am finally about ready to paint and stain this porch. I walked around, and there's a couple of things that I'm going to fix. So, one, the end of this railing. Before, the old rotten one, you could put your hand on the end of it and shake it, and it would almost come off. And that's obviously the weakest point. And it's the weakest point of this one still, too, because it's not tied into the wall, so you can still kind of shake it a little. So, being that we have no more new 2x2s, I took one of the old ones that I saved, and I ripped it down a little bit, so it looks kind of nice and new. And I'm going to kind of, it'll be on the outside, but I'll put like a brace from here to the rim joist. So I don't think that'll look too dumb, and that'll help. And I gotta get more screws to finish putting in the tops of these. And some of them are cracked. 4 of them are really bad. Oh, yeah, 4 of them are really bad, and one of them is like super bowed. So each of these are about 4 feet, so I'm just gonna get 2 8-footers, and that'll be enough to fix those 4. But I don't know when I'm gonna do that. It might be after I paint them all, so that I'll just have to go back and paint those 4 that I replace. But really, none of the deck boards are cracking anymore, which is great. Everything is kind of nice and weathered. Not too bad, but they're weathered enough that when I paint and stain, it won't try and come back off. Like, the paint won't flake off. So, I don't know when I'm going to paint or stain. I have a feeling painting is going to come before staining, but I'm going to do all of that, and whenever I paint, I will show you. Okay, it's about 2 days later. I think I'm going to attempt to paint. So, before I do all that though, there are a couple of places, like the bottom of these spindles. I don't know, I can't really see what is being shown on camera, but the bottom of these spindles are a little rough from when I cut them with the miter saw. So I'm going to take a piece of sandpaper and just kind of, go over them, smooth them out. I'll go around and check everything else, and then I'm going to take, like I said, these top boards off, so then I can paint the tops of these boards and don't have to worry about getting paint on the very top boards, and it'll just be easier. The paint I'm using is Valspar Satin Exterior Extra White paint. And I'm not going to do a coat of primer before because this has primer built into it. I got the first coat completely done, and it is looking nice. I mean, it looks sloppy up close because it's the first coat. Like, you can tell that it needs another coat, but it looks white, and I suppose that looks better than where it would. So I'm not going to start a second coat yet. If you can hear or see, there are a lot of bugs out in the bushes and on the windows. That is because it's going to rain in a few hours, so I'm not going to start a second coat if it's going to be raining. And I got all kinds of other stuff to do anyway. So I will come back sometime soon when the weather's nice again, whatever that will be, and I'll paint a second coat. But for now, I'm going to put back on all these top boards that I took off, just because they've already been off for like a week, and I'm scared they're going to start warping if I don't screw them back on. So I'll screw them back on for now, and then I'll just take them back off when I do a second coat. So I went ahead and painted a second coat of everything off camera. I mean, I figured it's already like 20-minute video and you guys get the point after the first coat. But it looks a lot nicer now. All consistent and even. I mean, it looks nice. And then I replaced these four in the morning. So now, I mean, there's still this one, but I mean, if we ever go and get wood, I might say, okay, let's grab another 8-footer, but it doesn't bother me as much as the other ones did. So now I don't know what we're going to do for stain. My guess is we're going to have to buy some more to match what was here. I really want to do like a semi-transparent to try and show off all the grain, but I doubt we're going to do that. I think my mom's going to want to match what the back deck is, and it's right there. But whenever we stain, I'll record that. It's finally stain day, and we're going to use the same stain that we used on this and our back deck. It's like it's called teak, and it shows like a really light color, which is weird. And I don't know, my parents bought these years and years ago, but they're dark. I mean, so, but the original one was called Sickens, and I guess Prolux bought out Sickens, so now it's looks like this, but it's teak 085 is the color, and it looks like that. But I'm going to sand this old stuff down a little bit, just so they match a little bit better, the new stuff and the old stuff, since we never replaced those couple deck boards. And this will take a couple of coats, I'm guessing, but I'm going to get started with that. So it is the next day. I stained all of this yesterday, the first coat. And obviously it's way, way lighter than what was here before. I think it looks super pretty. My parents agree. And I was trying to explain this to my parents, that the picture on the stain container looked pretty similar to this. And they're like, nah, this is the dark stain that we use. Okay, whatever you say. So what happened was the back deck is as dark brown as this. And we did use this stain after the dark brown was already on. So of course we couldn't really tell that this was super light because we were staining on top of already dark wood. So now since this is just bare treated wood, yeah, of course it's gonna look light. So I was trying to explain that to them, and we see that now. So I have been trying on and off all day to sand these last couple of boards down, since this stain is so much lighter than I thought it would be compared to how dark this is. I was just trying to sand it down so then I could stain it and hope that it would match a little better. But this has taken me a long time, and it's like 80 degrees out today actually. So I honestly think I'm just going to unscrew these and run them through the table saw, since I don't have like a router or anything, or I mean planer. I think I'm just gonna run them through the table saw, take like 1/8 of an inch off on all of them. I think that would be the best way to go, and then just screw them all back down with new screws. Hopefully that would get rid of some of the creaking in them. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Well, change of plans, that's not what I'm going to do. My dad said, check out my new Harbor Freight purchase. I don't even know what this thing's called. It's kind of cool. It's like a buffer, but for sanding. So we put on a 120 grit attachment, and the next size down is 60, and that one looks like it would destroy these boards. So I'm going to try going over these with 120 grit and see if that does anything. So this is how that's going. I'm using a 60 grit attachment, and this eats. Like, it gets it down really quickly. And then, I mean, I had the 120 grit on at first, but I figured the 60 grit would do it faster, which it did, yeah. Oh, actually that's 40 grit. So I did the 40 grit on the 3 back there, you can see, because these have been out in the sun. This is the next day. And now I'm going to have to use an actual sander or just hand sand it in the areas that I can't get to, but after all that's done, I'm going to go over again with 120 grit just so it's smooth and not all rough from the 40 grit. And then I will stain it all. This is about as far down as I'm willing to go. I mean, it's pretty good. The edges I got down as far in there as I could, which is a lot. It's all a lot better than yesterday. I took maybe an hour and a half on this, and it is very hot out. But it should be fine. I mean, yeah, it'll be noticeable that these are new, those are old, but I think it should be just fine, all stained. So I'm not going to get into staining today, but tomorrow I will try and get done with as many of the little things on here that I still have left to do as possible. I swear this is the 3rd time in like a week that I've come out and there's a pile of bird nest on the ground. So today is going to be the last day, hopefully, that I have to stain. I'm going to work on all of that. And then in between each of the spindles, like all of that. And then I'm also going to do some other touch-ups with paint. I think I'm going to paint these new spindles and just some other little touch-ups with white where I got stain on them, just so I can be done with the porch today and put out this video finally. And it is done. So these boards match way better than I thought they would, which is nice. And everything else looks very beautiful. All the white touched up in between each of the spindles. All looks really nice. So unless I ever come across any little thing that needs to be fixed or something else needs to be touched up, I'll obviously do that, but I think it is done otherwise. So I can finally put this video together and put it out. It is what is it, April 21st maybe? So I started this project in August, probably about August 21st. So what is that? September, 8 months? I think that's right, 8 months. I mean, August, September I built it, and then it had a weather over the winter, so it's not like I worked on this constantly for 8 months, obviously, but I started this 8 months ago. Now it's finally done, and it's just really cool to be able to say, as a 17-year-old, almost 18, that I built this myself. Built/repaired. I mean, this entire section is all brand new. Built it from the gravel up, like, and just the fact that I could make it flow really nicely, especially between these boards that we didn't replace. I'm really happy with it. And I'm honestly happy that the stain ended up being lighter than the back deck. I personally really like this like warm cedar look versus the like dark walnut look for porches. I just think cedar complements a house really nicely, and it definitely complements our house. It looks really nice. I will put together a complete time lapse of this entire series after I upload this video. Thank you for sticking around throughout the whole series, and let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.